Chapter 28, Section 2, Interactive Reader, pages 437 through 444, 20 points. Minor bodies of the solar system, movements of the moon. Key ideas. As you read this section, keep these questions in mind. What is the shape of the moon's orbit around Earth? Why do eclipses happen? How does the moon appear in each of its phases? How do movements of the moon affect tides on Earth? Page 437, question. Why is the barycenter of the Earth-Moon system located inside Earth? What is the Earth-Moon system? To people on Earth, the moon appears to orbit Earth. However, highlight, if you could observe Earth and the moon from space, you would see that Earth and the moon revolve around each other. Continue highlighting. Together they form a single system that moves around the sun. Continue highlighting. The mass of the moon is only about 1/80th the mass of Earth. Thus the balance point, highlight, within the Earth-Moon system is not halfway between the two bodies. Highlight, the balance point or barycenter is actually located within the Earth. The barycenter follows a smooth orbit around the sun. The barycenter is not a real place, it is an imaginary point. Question 1, why is the barycenter of the Earth-Moon system located inside the Earth? Answer, the moon is about 1/80th of Earth's mass. The moon is about 1/80th of Earth's mass. The moon's elliptical orbit. Highlight. The path of the moon's orbit is an ellipse. The ellipse is about 5% more elongated than a circle. Therefore, highlight, the distance between the Earth and the moon varies over time. Highlight, when the moon is farthest from the Earth, the moon is at apogee. Continue highlighting. When the moon is closest to Earth, the moon is at perigee. Under the diagram, because the moon's orbit is elliptical, the moon is not always the same distance from the Earth. Page 438. Why can't people take photos of the whole moon from Earth? What is an eclipse? Appearance of the moon in the sky. If you watch the moon every night, you would see, highlight, the moon rises and sets 50 minutes later each night. Continue highlighting. It appears to rise and set later because of Earth's rotation and the moon's revolution. Continue highlighting. While the Earth completes one rotation each day, the moon also moves in its orbit around Earth. Continue highlighting. It takes 1/29th of Earth's rotation, or 50 minutes, for the horizon to catch up to the moon. Highlight, while the moon revolves around Earth and the sun, it also rotates on its axis. Continue highlighting. The moon completes one rotation only once during one revolution around the Earth. Continue highlighting. The moon revolves around the Earth once every 27.3 days. Continue highlighting. Because the moon's rotation and revolution take about the same time, observers on Earth always see the same side of the moon. People can observe the other side of the moon only by looking at images taken by spacecraft. Why can't people take photos of the whole moon from the Earth? Question 2. The moon's rotation and revolution. The moon's rotation and revolution take about the same time. Take about the same time. So Earth only sees one side. So Earth only sees one side. The moon's rotation and revolution take about the same time, so Earth only sees one side. Highlight. The sun always lights up half the moon as the moon orbits Earth. Highlight the part of the moon's surface that is lighted or illuminated by sunlight changes. Sometimes the side of the moon facing Earth is fully illuminated. At other times, however, the side of the moon we see from Earth is dark. Highlight the position of the moon in its orbit determines how much of its lighted half we can see. What is an eclipse? Bodies that orbit the sun, including Earth and the moon, cast long shadows into space. Highlight. When one body passes into the shadow of another body, an eclipse occurs. Question 3. What is an eclipse? When one body passes into the shadow of another body. When one body passes into the shadow of another body. Types of eclipses. Highlight. Solar. The moon's shadow falls on Earth. Highlight. Lunar. Earth's shadow falls on the moon. What happens during a solar eclipse? The shadows that Earth and the moon cast have two parts, the umbra and the penumbra. Highlight. The umbra is the inner cone-shaped part of the shadow. Continue highlighting. In the umbra, sunlight is completely blocked. Highlight. The penumbra is the outer part of the shadow. Continue highlighting. In the penumbra, sunlight is partially blocked. Page 439. Draw arrows on the diagram to show the direction the sun's rays are coming from. What is one difference between a total solar eclipse and an annular eclipse? Under the diagram, highlight, during a solar eclipse, the moon passes between Earth and the sun. Highlight, when the moon is directly between the sun and Earth, the moon's shadow falls on Earth, causing a solar eclipse. During a total solar eclipse, the moon completely blocks the sun's light from parts of the Earth in the umbra. Observers in the penumbra see a partial solar eclipse. The umbra of the moon is small. Thus, a total solar eclipse covers only a small part of Earth. A total solar eclipse is visible in an area of only a few hundred square kilometers. A total solar eclipse also lasts for a short time. It lasts for no more than 7 minutes at any one location. A total eclipse will not be visible in the United States until 2017. However, there's a total solar eclipse somewhere on Earth about every 18 months. Question 4, draw arrows on the diagram to show the direction the sun's rays are coming from. Draw arrows pointing from the moon toward the Earth on the diagram. Draw arrows pointing from the moon toward the Earth on the diagram. Annular eclipses. If the moon is at or near apogee when it moves between the Earth and the sun, highlight the moon's umbra does not reach Earth. When the umbra does not reach Earth, highlight a ring-shaped eclipse occurs. Highlight this type of eclipse is called an annular eclipse. Annulus is the Latin word for ring. During an annular eclipse, highlight the moon does not block the sun completely. Highlight instead a thin ring of sunlight is visible around the edge of the moon. Question 5. What is one difference between a total solar eclipse and an annular eclipse? During an annular eclipse, there is a ring of sunlight around the moon. There is a ring of sunlight around the moon. There is no ring with a total eclipse. There is no ring with a total eclipse. During an annular eclipse, there is a ring of sunlight around the moon. There is no ring during a total eclipse. What happens during a lunar eclipse? Highlight, two things have to happen for a lunar eclipse to occur. Highlight, Earth must be between the moon and the sun. Highlight, Earth's shadow must cross the lighted part of the moon. Highlight, a total lunar eclipse happens when the entire moon passes into Earth's umbra. The figure on the next page shows a diagram of a total lunar eclipse. Page 440. On the diagram, circle the part of Earth that a total lunar eclipse would be visible from. Why does the moon often look reddish during a total lunar eclipse? If the moon's orbit and Earth's orbit were in the same plane, how many times during each revolution of the moon would a solar eclipse happen? Highlight under the diagram, during a lunar eclipse, Earth's shadow falls on the moon. Highlight, when only part of the moon passes into Earth's umbra, a partial lunar eclipse occurs. Continue highlighting. When the entire moon passes through Earth's penumbra, a penumbral eclipse occurs. Continue highlighting. A penumbral eclipse is barely noticeable. A lunar eclipse lasts for several hours. Although the moon is in Earth's shadow during a lunar eclipse, the eclipsed moon appears reddish. Highlight. The red color results because some sunlight bends around Earth through our atmosphere. Continue highlighting. The light that reaches the moon is mainly red light. Question 6. On the diagram, circle the part of the Earth that a total lunar eclipse would be visible from. Circle the left half of the Earth, or the dark half of the Earth, opposite where it says sun's rays. Circle the dark half or the left half opposite where you see the words sun's rays. Question 7. Why does the moon often look reddish during a total lunar eclipse? Answer. Some sunlight bends around Earth. Some sunlight bends around Earth through the atmosphere. Through the atmosphere. Some sunlight bends around Earth through the atmosphere. Why don't eclipses happen more often? Highlight. As many as 7 eclipses may happen during 1 year. 4 of the eclipses may be lunar eclipses, and 3 may be solar eclipses, or vice versa. However, total eclipses of the sun and moon do not happen often. Highlight. Solar and lunar eclipses do not happen during every lunar orbit. Continue highlighting. This is because the orbits of the Earth and the moon are not in the same plane. Continue highlighting. The moon crosses the plane of Earth's orbit only twice during each revolution around the Earth. A solar eclipse will occur only if this crossing happens when the moon is between the Earth and the sun. A lunar eclipse will occur only when Earth is between the moon and the sun during that crossing. Question 8. If the moon's orbit and Earth's orbit were in the same plane, how many times during each revolution of the moon would solar eclipses happen? Answer. Once. Once. Why does the moon appear lighted? Although the moon seems very bright on certain nights, highlight, the moon does not produce its own light. Continue highlighting. The moon reflects light from the sun. Because the moon is a sphere, highlight, sunlight always lights half of it. Continue highlighting. As the moon revolves around Earth, we can see different amounts of the lighted side. Page 441. Why does the moon go through phases? What are the relative positions of the Earth, Sun, and Moon during a new moon? What are phases of the moon? Recall that one side of the moon, called the near side, always faces Earth. As the moon revolves around Earth, different amounts of the near side of the moon are lighted. Highlight. Because different parts of the near side are lighted, the moon appears to have different shapes on different nights. Continue highlighting. The different shapes are called phases of the moon. Continue highlighting. The figure below shows the moon phases. It also shows the positions of the Earth and the moon during each phase. Question number 9. Why does the moon go through phases? The moon revolves around the Earth the moon revolves around the Earth, and different amounts of the near side are lit. And different amounts of the near side are lit. The moon revolves around the Earth, and different amounts of the near side are lit. Highlight under the diagram. The positions of the moon, sun, and Earth determine which phase of the moon is in. Continue highlighting. The photographs show how the moon looks from Earth at each phase. What are the relative positions of the sun, Earth, and moon during a new moon? List in this order: sun first, moon, Earth. Sun, moon, Earth, in that order. When the moon is directly between the sun and the Earth, the rays strike only the far side of the moon. As a result, the entire near side of the moon is dark. Highlight: during the new moon, the near side is completely dark. Highlight: during this phase, the moon is between Earth and sun. During this phase, highlight: the sun illuminates the entire near side of the moon. Throughout the moon's orbit, however, different amounts of the near side are illuminated. As the lighted part of the moon's near side changes, people say the moon is waxing or waning. Page 442. How much of the moon's near side is illuminated during the waxing crescent phase? On the picture, label the part of the moon that is lit by the sun and the part of the moon that is lit by Earth's shine. Waxing phases of the moon. Highlight: as the moon moves around the Earth after its new moon phase, part of the near side becomes illuminated. Continue highlighting. When the size of the lighted part of the moon is increasing, the moon is waxing. Continue highlighting. A waxing crescent phase happens when a sliver of the moon's near side is illuminated. How much of the moon's near side is illuminated during the waxing crescent phase? Question 11. Answer: a sliver. A sliver. When the moon has moved through 1/4 of its orbit after the new moon phase, the moon looks like a half circle or a semicircle. Half of the near side of the moon is lighted. Highlight: when a waxing moon becomes a semicircle, the moon enters its first quarter phase. After the first quarter moon, highlight: the lighted part of the moon's near side is larger than a semicircle and still growing. Continue highlighting. This phase is called waxing gibbous phase. The lighted part of the moon continues to increase until, highlight, it appears as a full circle, the full moon. Waning phases of the moon. Highlight: after the full moon phase, the lighted part of the near side of the moon decreases in size. Continue highlighting. The moon is waning. Continue highlighting. The waning gibbous phase happens when the moon is waning, but the lighted part is still bigger than a semicircle. When the lighted part of the near side becomes a highlight semicircle, the moon enters the third quarter phase. Continue highlighting. A waning crescent phase happens when only a sliver of the near side is lighted. Continue highlighting. After the waning crescent phase, the moon again moves between the Earth and the Sun. The moon once again appears as the new moon, and the cycle of moon phases begins again. Highlight. During the crescent moon phases, only part of the moon shines brightly. Continue highlighting. However, the rest of the moon's near side is not completely dark as shown below. During the crescent moon phases, highlight. Sunlight that reflects off Earth shine, can light the dark part of the moon. Continue highlighting. The darker part of the moon in this photo is lit by Earthshine. Question 12. On the picture, label the part of the moon that is lit by sun and the part of the moon that is lit by Earthshine. Label the brighter right portion of the picture sun. Label the darker left portion of the picture Earth. The right portion sun, the left portion Earth. Page 443. A typical year is 365 days long. About how many new moons are there in a typical year? Are point A and point B experiencing high tide or low tide? Time from new moon to new moon. Highlight. The moon revolves around Earth in 27.3 days. However, highlight. The moon takes longer than that to go through a complete cycle of phases. Continue highlighting. The period from one new moon to the next new moon is 29.5 days. Continue highlighting. The difference of 2.2 days is a result of the orbit of the Earth-Moon system around the Sun. Continue highlighting. As the moon orbits Earth, both bodies move slightly farther along their orbit around the Sun. Continue highlighting. Therefore, the moon must go a bit farther to be directly between the Earth and Sun. The moon takes about 2.2 days to travel this extra distance. When the moon is directly between the Earth and the Sun, the moon is in new moon phase. A typical year is 365 days long. About how many new moons are there in a typical year? Because there are 365 days in a typical year, and a moon takes 29.5 days to move through a cycle of phases, you need to do the division problem listed below. 365 days divided by 29.5 days equals 12.37. Your answer is about 12. So the answer for number 13, using the formula, should be about 12, or 12. How do movements of the moon affect tides? Recall that tides are a periodic highlight, rise and fall of the water level in the ocean and other large water bodies. Continue highlighting. Tidal bulges form due to the moon's gravitational pull on ocean water. Continue highlighting. The moon's gravitational pull decreases with distance. Continue highlighting. Thus, the moon pulls more strongly on the ocean on the Earth's near side. The moon pulls less strongly on the ocean on the Earth's far side. Because Earth rotates, the tides in a given area change during a day. Highlight, the sun also affects tides. The effect of the sun's gravitational pull is smaller, however, because the sun is farther away. Twice each month, when the sun and the moon and the Earth are almost in line, the gravitational pull combines. The combined gravitational pull produces especially high tides. Under the diagram, highlight the moon's pull on Earth's greatest at point A on the Earth's near side. Continue highlighting. The moon's pull on Earth is weakest at point B on the Earth's far side. Question 14, are point A and B experiencing high tide or low tide? Answer, high tide. High tide. Page 444. Describe 3 differences between total lunar eclipses and total solar eclipses. Why is the moon not always the same distance from the Earth? You observed the moon one night and noticed that only a sliver is illuminated. 2 nights later, a larger portion of the moon is illuminated. What phase was the moon on the first night? During which moon phase do all solar eclipses happen? Explain your answer. Why is the time between 2 new moons longer than the time it takes the moon to orbit Earth once? What is the role of the moon in forming tides? Question 1, answer can be found on pages 438 through 440. During a solar eclipse, the moon is between the Earth and the sun. During a solar eclipse, the moon is between the Earth and the sun. During lunar, Earth is between the sun and moon. During lunar, Earth is between the sun and moon. Solar eclipses happen during a new moon. Solar eclipses happen during new moon. Lunar during full moon. Lunar during full moon. Solar eclipses happen with moon shadow on Earth. Solar eclipses happen with moon shadow on Earth. Lunar with Earth's shadow on moon. Lunar with Earth's shadow on moon. Question 2. Answer can be found on page 437. The moon's orbit is an ellipse. The moon's orbit is an ellipse. Question 3. Answer can be found on page 441. Answer is waxing crescent. Waxing crescent. Question 4. Answer can be found on pages 438 and 439. new moon, because the moon's shadow, falls on the earth, as it moves between the earth and sun. As it moves between the earth and sun. Again, new moon because the moon's shadow falls on the earth as it moves between the earth and sun. Question number 5. Answer can be found on page 443. The earth and the moon are orbiting the sun. The earth and moon are orbiting the sun. It takes 2.2 days. It takes 2.2 days for the moon and the earth and the sun it takes an extra 2.2 days for the moon and the earth and the sun to line up again. The earth and the moon are orbiting the sun. It takes an extra 2.2 days for the moon and the earth and the sun to line up again. Question 6. Answer can be found on page 443. Tidal bulges form due to the moon's gravitational pull on the ocean's water. Tidal bulges form due to the moon's gravitational pull on the ocean's water.